In the heart of a stormy night, amid the glittering chaos of the city, a powerful African queen of empires, worth billions, steps into a rain-soaked alley. She sees him, a forgotten man huddled under cardboard, sketching dreams on scraps. Little does she know, fate has just ignited. She falls deeply, bringing him coffee on park benches, sharing secrets under autumn leaves. His eyes hold mysteries, his words touch her guarded soul. She offers him everything, believing he's lost it all. But one electric night in Times Square, the mask shatters. He peels away the disguise, revealing not a broken soul, but a hidden king. Her greatest rival, a CEO who pretended poverty to understand the world. Love turns to betrayal. Lies unravel. Yet from the ashes rises something unbreakable. Together, they face blackmail, enemies, and their own fears, unveiling a revolution that shelters the forgotten and changes nations. This is no ordinary romance. This is an African tale of destiny, deception, and a love so powerful it redeems empires. Two giants, one truth, a legacy that echoes forever. Stay with me till the end. You won't believe how destiny rewrites their story. Like, subscribe, and let's journey into this epic African tale right now. In the glittering underbelly of New York City, where skyscrapers pierce the heavens like diamonds on a velvet night, Elena Voss reigned supreme. She was no ordinary billionaire. Her empire spanned tech innovations that revolutionized the world, from AI companions that whispered secrets to self-driving fleets that danced through traffic like ghosts. At 35, Elena was a vision of power. Sharp suits tailored to her lithe frame, raven hair cascading in waves, and eyes like stormy seas that could drown a man or pull him to salvation. But beneath the boardroom bravado, her heart was a fortress, scarred by betrayals from lovers who saw only her fortune. Until one fateful evening when fate, or perhaps a cruel twist of destiny, led her to a rain-soaked alley where a homeless man huddled under a tattered cardboard shelter, his eyes gleaming with an intelligence that pierced through the downpour. It started innocently enough. Elena had just closed a deal worth billions, her limo gliding through the storm-lashed streets toward her penthouse overlooking Central Park. But traffic snarled and impatience gnawed at her. She stepped out for air, umbrella in hand, only to spot him, a disheveled figure with a scruffy beard, clad in layers of mismatched clothes, sketching furiously on a crumpled napkin with a stolen pen. His drawings weren't mere doodles. They were intricate blueprints, swirling with lines that hinted at mechanical genius. Intrigued, she approached, her heels clicking against the wet pavement like a metronome counting down to upheaval. "Impressive," she said, her voice cutting through the rain's roar. "What's a mind like yours doing out here in the cold?" He looked up, his hazel eyes locking onto hers with a spark that sent an unexpected shiver down her spine. Not from a chill, but from something deeper, more primal. "Surviving," he replied, his tone laced with a quiet confidence that belied his appearance. His name was Alex, or so he claimed, and as they talked, Elena found herself drawn in. He spoke of lost dreams, of a world that had chewed him up and spat him out. But his words carried the weight of hidden stories, laced with wit and wisdom that rivaled her sharpest advisors. Days turned into stolen moments. Elena, disguised in casual jeans and a hoodie to evade paparazzi, began seeking him out. She'd bring coffee from her favorite artisanal roaster, and they'd sit on park benches debating philosophy under the autumn leaves. Alex's laughter was infectious, his insights profound. He challenged her views on wealth and power, making her question the isolation of her ivory tower. For the first time, Elena felt seen, not as a billionaire heiress, but as a woman with vulnerabilities, dreams, and a heart yearning for authenticity. Little did she know, Alex was no ordinary drifter. By day, he played the part flawlessly, but at night, in a hidden loft across town, he shed his rags for bespoke suits. Alexander Hale was the elusive CEO of Hale Dynamics, a rival tech conglomerate valued at trillions, who had embarked on this undercover experiment to understand the human cost of corporate greed. It was meant to be research, a way to innovate solutions for urban poverty, but Elena's unexpected entry into his life was complicating everything. Her genuine kindness, her fierce intelligence, they were cracking his facade. He found himself falling, too, torn between revealing his truth and savoring the purity of a connection untainted by status. One crisp evening, as they wandered through the twinkling lights of Times Square, Elena turned to him, her hand brushing his. "Alex, come with me tonight. My place, it's warm, safe. You don't have to live like this anymore." Her voice trembled with emotion, a vulnerability she rarely showed. Alex's heart raced, the charade was fraying at the edges. He leaned in, their breaths mingling in the neon glow, and just as their lips were about to meet, his phone buzzed insistently in the hidden pocket sewn into the lining of his threadbare coat. The vibration cut through the moment like a blade. Alex froze, inches from her lips, his eyes flickering with something Elena couldn't quite place. Panic, perhaps, or regret. He pulled back, slightly, the spell fracturing under the weight of reality. I can't, he murmured, his voice rough, almost broken. Not like this. Elena's brow furrowed, confusion and hurt mingling in her storm-gray eyes. What do you mean? Alex, talk to me. You've been pulling away all night. If it's about the money, about coming home with me, I don't care about any of that. I just want you safe. I want us. He ran a hand through his matted hair, the gesture betraying a nervousness she'd never seen in him before. The rain had stopped, leaving the city slick and shimmering, reflections of neon dancing on the puddles at their feet. Crowds surged around them, oblivious to the private drama unfolding in the heart of Times Square. "It's not that simple, Elena," he said, his gaze dropping to the ground. "There are things about me you don't know. Things that would change everything." She stepped closer, undeterred, her fingers gently lifting his chin so their eyes met again. "Then tell me. Whatever it is, we'll face it together. I've spent my life surrounded by people who lie for gain, who hide behind masks of perfection. With you, it's different. It's real. Please don't shut me out now." Alex's chest tightened. The phone buzzed again, urgent, insistent. He knew who it was, his assistant, probably with news of the board meeting he'd secretly scheduled for tomorrow, the one where he planned to unveil his findings from this undercover stint. Findings that were supposed to remain objective, detached. But nothing about Elena was objective. She had slipped under his skin, into his blood, challenging every assumption he'd made about privilege and empathy. Before he could respond, a black SUV pulled up sharply at the curb, hazard lights blinking. The window rolled down, revealing a polished woman in a crisp suit, his chief of staff, Miranda. Her eyes widened as she took in the scene. Her boss, disguised as a vagrant, standing intimately close to Elena Voss, the one woman in the world who could destroy or elevate Hale Dynamics with a single merger decision. "Sir," Miranda said, her voice tight with barely concealed shock. "We have a situation. The Tokyo acquisition, it's falling apart. They need you now." Elena stiffened, her hand dropping from his face as if burned. "Sir?" The word hung in the air like an accusation. She turned slowly to the woman in the car, then back to Alex, pieces clicking into place with horrifying clarity. The way he spoke sometimes with that understated authority. The sketches that looked suspiciously like advanced engineering schematics. The phone he always kept hidden, claiming it was broken. "Alex." Her voice was barely above a whisper. "What is this?" He closed his eyes for a moment, the weight of the inevitable crashing down. There was no escaping it now. "Elena, I can explain." "Explain what?" She cut in, stepping back, her arms crossing protectively over her chest. "That you've been lying to me this whole time? Playing some kind of game?" Miranda, sensing the catastrophe unfolding, tried to intervene. "Ms. Voss, perhaps this is a conversation best had in private." Elena's laugh was sharp, bitter. "Oh, now I'm Ms. Voss? A minute ago your sir was about to kiss me while pretending to be homeless." She looked at Alex, betrayal etching deep lines across her flawless features. "Who are you, really?" He exhaled slowly, reaching up to peel away the fake beard with deliberate care, revealing the chiseled jaw beneath. Then he shrugged off the ratty coat, letting it fall to the ground, exposing the tailored shirt underneath that had been carefully distressed for his role. "My name is Alexander Hale," he said, quietly, "CEO of Hale Dynamics." The name hit her like a physical blow. Hale Dynamics, her fiercest competitor, the company that had been poaching her talent, undercutting her bids, and rumored to be developing tech that could render her AI division obsolete. And its enigmatic leader, the man who never appeared in public, who conducted business through proxies and holograms. "You," she breathed, the word laced with disbelief and fury. All this time, the alley, the sketches, the stories about being chewed up by the world, it was all an act. "Not all of it," he protested, stepping toward her. But she recoiled as if he were toxic. "The experiment was real. I wanted to understand the streets, the people my policies affect. But you meeting you was never part of the plan. What happened between us, that was real, Elena. Every conversation, every moment, I never faked that." She shook her head, tears glistening in her eyes despite her efforts to hold them back. "Real? You let me believe you were suffering, that you needed help. I opened up to you in ways I've never done with anyone. I was going to give you everything, a home, a future. And it was all a lie. To what? Gather intelligence on me? On Voss Industries? No." His voice rose, desperate now. "It started as research, yes, but it stopped being that the moment I saw you. The way you looked at my drawings, the way you listened. You saw me, Elena, not the CEO, not the billionaire. Just me. I've been trying to find a way to tell you, but I was terrified of this exact reaction." Miranda cleared her throat awkwardly from the car. "Sir, the Tokyo team is holding. We really need to go." Alex ignored her, his focus solely on Elena. "Please," he said softly, "give me a chance to make this right. Come with me. Let me show you the truth, all of it." For a long moment, she stood there, the city's chaos swirling around them. Part of her wanted to walk away, to cut him out of her life like a malignant growth. But another part, the part that had fallen for his mind, his humor, the quiet strength in his eyes, hesitated. There was something in his voice, a raw honesty that echoed the man she thought she knew. Against her better judgment, she nodded curtly. "Fine, but not because I forgive you. Because I deserve answers. And if I don't like what I hear, Alexander Hale, you'll regret ever crossing my path." He exhaled in relief, gesturing to the SUV. As they climbed in, Miranda casting wary glances between them, the vehicle pulled away into the night. Elena stared out the window, her reflection superimposed over the passing lights, wondering if she'd just made the biggest mistake of her life or stepped into something that could redefine it. The drive to his loft was silent, tension thick enough to choke on. When they arrived at the nondescript warehouse in Soho, Elena's skepticism deepened. But as the elevator ascended to the top floor, and the doors opened into a sprawling space filled with cutting-edge prototypes, holographic displays, and walls lined with awards, the scale of his deception hit home. "This is where you suffered?" she asked dryly, taking in the luxury that rivaled her own penthouse. Alex winced. "I never stayed here during the experiment. I slept on the streets, ate at shelters. It was real, Elena. Painfully real." She wandered to a table covered in blueprints, the same style as the napkin sketches he'd shown her. Picking one up, she recognized the designs. Revolutionary energy systems that could solve urban homelessness by providing portable, self-sustaining power units. This is what you were working on?" He nodded, stepping closer. "Inspired by what I saw. By the people I met. Including you. Your passion for ethical tech, it pushed me to think bigger." She set the blueprint down, turning to face him. "Why the lie, Alex? Why not just approach me as yourself? We could have collaborated, changed the world together. Because no one sees the real me when they know who I am," he admitted, vulnerability cracking his composure. "They see the money, the power. You saw the man beneath. And I was selfish. I wanted to keep that as long as I could." Elena's anger softened, just a fraction. There was truth in his words, a mirror to her own loneliness. But trust, once shattered, wasn't easily rebuilt. Before she could respond, Miranda burst in, tablet in hand. Sir, Tokyo's on the line. And there's something else. Paparazzi spotted you, too, leaving Times Square. Photos are already circulating. The headlines are brutal. Billionaire heiress picks up homeless lover, who turns out to be rival tycoon. It's going viral. Alex groaned, but Elena's lips twitched in dark amusement. Well, Alex, she said, using his real name like a weapon, looks like our little secret's out. What now? He met her gaze, determination hardening his features. Now, we face it together. If you'll let me. She considered him for a long moment, the air between them charged with possibility and peril. Then, slowly, she extended her hand, not in forgiveness, but in challenge. Together, she echoed, but on my terms. As he took her hand, the city lights flickering beyond the floor-to-ceiling windows, neither of them could have predicted how this revelation would ignite a firestorm, not just in the media, but in the boardrooms, where old rivalries simmered and new alliances beckoned. And somewhere in the distance, a competitor watched, ready to exploit the chaos of two titans entangled in a scandal born of love and lies. Their first test came sooner than expected. The next morning, Elena's phone exploded with calls from her board, demanding explanations. Accusations of corporate espionage flew, whispers that she'd been played for a fool. Across town, Alex faced his own inquisition, investors questioning his judgment, his sanity. But instead of retreating, they met in neutral territory, a quiet cafe in Greenwich Village, both disguised in baseball caps and sunglasses. Over steaming cups of coffee, they laid their cards on the table. I'm not asking for trust yet, Alex said earnestly. Just time. Let me prove I'm not the man the tabloids say. Elena studied him, searching for cracks in this new facade. And how exactly do you plan to do that? He slid a folder across the table. Inside were the full plans for his homelessness initiative, detailed, funded, and ready for partnership. With this, co-branded, Vashale Foundation, equal control, transparent from day one. Her eyes widened. It was bold, risky, a merger of not just projects, but reputations. You'd tie your company to mine after this mess? I'd tie my future to yours, he corrected softly, if you'll have it. The gesture chipped away at her defenses. Over the following weeks, they navigated the storm side by side. Joint press conferences where they owned the narrative, turning scandal into a story of redemption and innovation. Late nights poring over designs, their debates as fierce as their growing attraction. Yet doubts lingered. Elena caught herself wondering if this, too, was part of some grand strategy. And Alex wrestled with guilt, haunted by the hurt he'd caused. One night, after a particularly grueling day, fending off hostile takeover attempts sparked by their vulnerability, they found themselves on the rooftop of her penthouse, the city spread out like a sea of stars below. I'm sorry, he said simply, the words carrying the weight of weeks. For the deception. For the pain. She leaned against the railing, the wind whipping her hair. I know. And I'm sorry, too, for assuming the worst of you that night. We're both guarded, Alex. Both used to armor. He moved closer, tentative. Can we start over? No disguises. Just us. This time, when he leaned in, she didn't pull away. Their kiss was slow, tentative, a promise rather than a passion, sealing something fragile and new. But as they stood there, wrapped in each other's arms, a shadow loomed on the horizon. An anonymous email had landed in both their inboxes that morning. Grainy photos of their undercover encounters, threats to release more unless they backed off the joint venture. Someone knew the full truth. Someone wanted to destroy them before they could build something unbreakable. As the first snow of winter began to fall, dusting the city in white, Elena and Alex exchanged a look. The game had changed. Now, it wasn't just about love or empires. It was about survival, and they would face it hand in hand as the stakes climbed higher than either had ever imagined. The anonymous email was only the opening salvo. Within hours, more arrived, dozens of photographs, time-stamped videos, even audio recordings of conversations Elena and Alex had shared in what they believed were private moments. Someone had been watching them from the shadows for weeks, perhaps months. The blackmail demand was simple: dissolve the Vashale Foundation and the partnership and walk away from each other forever, or the world would see every vulnerable second exposed, twisted into proof of corporate collusion, fraud, and betrayal. They traced the emails to a ghost server in Eastern Europe, then to a shell company registered in the Caymans, and finally to a name that made both their blood run cold: Victor Langford. He had once been Alex's mentor, the man who taught him the ruthless art of building an empire, until Alex discovered Victor's habit of crushing smaller competitors through sabotage and blackmail. Alex had forced him out of Hale Dynamics years ago, vowing never to become the monster his teacher was. Victor had vanished into obscurity, or so they thought. Now he was back, older, wealthier from shadowy deals, and burning with revenge. "He wants to destroy us both," Elena said, staring at the final message on the massive screen in Alex's war room, a hidden command center beneath the loft. "Me for outbidding him on 3 continents. You for casting him out." Alex's jaw tightened. "He taught me every dirty trick in the book. I just never thought he'd use them on me." They could have paid him off. Victor's price was astronomical, but within reach for 2 billionaires. They could have lawyered up, turned it into a decade-long court battle. But neither of them was built to run. Instead, they chose to fight on their terms, in the open, where monsters like Victor withered in the light. The plan they devised was audacious, almost insane. They would host the grand launch of the Vashale Foundation in 48 hours, live-streamed to millions, unveiling the portable energy shelters that could house and power the homeless across every major city. Every prototype, every patent, every line of code would be open source that night, free for the world to use and improve. Victor's leverage, the threat of exposing their private beginnings, would become meaningless if they told the story first, raw and unfiltered. The night of the launch arrived like a storm front. The venue was an abandoned warehouse in Brooklyn they had transformed into a glowing cathedral of hope. Walls lined with holographic blueprints, actual working shelters humming softly, their warm lights pushing back the winter darkness outside. Thousands filled the space: journalists, activists, city officials, and most importantly, people who had lived on the streets, invited as honored guests. Cameras beamed the event globally. Elena stepped onto the stage first, radiant in a simple black gown that caught every light like liquid night. The audience fell silent. 2 months ago, she began, her voice steady yet laced with emotion. "I fell in love with a man I believed had nothing. I brought him coffee on park benches. I offered him my home, my heart. I thought I was saving him." She paused, letting the words settle. Turns out he was saving me. Alex joined her, no longer hiding behind disguises. Clean-shaven, commanding in a perfectly tailored midnight suit, he looked every inch the titan he was, but his eyes sought only hers. "I spent weeks pretending to be homeless," he continued, the confession rippling through the crowd like thunder. "Not for a stunt, not for headlines, but to understand the world my decisions affected from inside. I met heroes out there, people stronger than any boardroom warrior I've ever known. And then I met Elena." His voice softened. She saw through the dirt and the lies straight to whatever good might still be in me. She challenged me to be better. This foundation, these shelters, they began as my penance. They became our promise. Together they told the entire story, no redactions, no spin. The deception, the heartbreak in Times Square, the blackmail that had chased them to this moment. They played clips from Victor's threatening videos, laid bare every photograph. The audience watched in rapt silence as 2 of the most powerful people on Earth stripped themselves vulnerable for all to see. "And tonight," Elena said, turning to the massive screen behind them, "we take away his power. Every design you see here is now open source. Every patent released. No one can stop this. Not money, not threats, not old grudges. Because this doesn't belong to us anymore. It belongs to every person who has ever needed shelter from the cold." The screen flared to life, download counters skyrocketing as universities, nonprofits, and governments around the world began pulling the files. Cities from Sao Paulo to Seoul announced instant adoption programs. The shelter's sleek, solar-powered pods that unfolded like flowers providing heat, light, water filtration, and connectivity were already rolling off production lines funded jointly by Voss Industries and Hale Dynamics. Victor's final move came minutes later. From an undisclosed location, he unleashed everything he had left. Doctored audio implying collusion, fabricated documents alleging fraud. But the world had already heard the truth from their own mouths. The fakes crumbled under scrutiny within hours, exposed by the very transparency Elena and Alex had embraced. By dawn, Victor Langford was in custody, his empire collapsing as former victims stepped forward, emboldened by the example set that night. The man who thrived in darkness could not survive the light. Weeks later, on a crystalline spring morning, Elena and Alex stood on the rooftop where they had shared their first real kiss. The city sparkled below them, alive with possibility. In the distance, the first cluster of Vosshale shelters gleamed along the waterfront, already home to families who had known only uncertainty. Alex slipped a small box from his pocket. Inside was not a diamond the size of a planet, but a simple band of meteorite iron, ancient, unbreakable, forged in the heart of a fallen star. "I don't have a speech prepared," he said, a smile tugging at his lips. "No grand deception this time. Just a question. Elena Voss, will you keep challenging me, keep seeing me, keep building a better world with me for the rest of our lives?" Tears shone in her eyes, but her smile was fierce and radiant. "Only if you promise to keep surprising me, Alexander Hale. No more disguises. Just us flawed, stubborn, and utterly in love." She slipped the ring onto her finger, and they kissed as the sun crested the horizon, painting the skyline in gold and rose. Below them, the city stirred to life, unaware that two hearts once guarded by wealth and walls had chosen something far greater: trust, truth, and a love that refused to hide. And somewhere, in shelters now dotting cities across the globe, people woke to warmth and light who had never known either before. They would never know the full story of the woman who once offered coffee to a stranger in the rain, or the man who risked everything to become better for her. But they would live because of it. Because love, when it is brave enough to be honest, can change the world.